worksheet that we did yesterday, and I want you to go down and tell me which one that you weren't sure about right now. Come on, guys. Yes.
Number 37.
All right, let's take a quick look at 37, please. All right, now everybody take a look. All right, I have it worked out. All right. Again, the reason why this one's a little bit different was because when you multiply things, none of the radicals were able to combine or to simplify. All right. Does anybody have any questions with that now? That's okay, but I want to talk about 37 and make sure everything's good. Anybody have any questions with 37? Nobody? Now? All right, what else, Cameron? Hurry. 39. Now let's look at 39. You have to rationalize the denominator. So you're going to multiply the top and bottom by a radical 5. You want to take a look at it, please? You may need some further assistance on number 39. Any explanation? Yes, sir. All right, let's go back to 19 real quick. One. Somebody else want to tell me about something? Yes. Square root of 1 is 1. It's like it was square root of 4. You'd say 2. Square root of 1 is 1. If you write down the square root of 1, that's the same as 1. Thank you. Much better about today. All right. Anybody else? Anybody else have any questions or concerns? Thank you. All right. Now open up the next one. All right. Solving radical equations. All right. I did the odds with my other class. All right. We're going to go down and I want to start with the odds here. All right, and again, I want you to listen carefully. All right. Today we're learning how to solve an equation with a radical in it. All right. So basically, we're doing the inverse. All right. So how do you undo a square root? How do you undo a square root is the question. And what would that be? Somebody said something good. Square both sides. All right, you square both sides. Now, why do we square both sides? Because a square and a square root do what to each other? They cancel each other out. All right, so we have here negative b equals 64. So b must have been what? B must have been negative 64. Now, if you're not sure if you're right, you can always take the negative 64 and plug it in for b. And negative 64 is 64. Square root of 64 is what? 8. So we kind of just checked our work. All right? But again, listen to me now. To undo a square root, you have to square. Yes, Walker.
Why did we keep it negative here?
It's not negative b times negative b.
Oh.
All right, so let's look at number 3 now. Number 3 is a little bit harder. All right, the reason why I say it's a little bit harder is because you have to isolate the radical. First, you must isolate the radical. What does that mean to do? I have to get rid of the 3 first, right? So you would say 2 radical 4r equals 8. Then what do I have to do? Divide by 2. So you would say radical 4r is equal to 4. Now how do I undo the radical? Square both sides. So now I have 4r is equal to what? 16. And now what? R equals 4. Now how do I know I'm right? Because I can take the 4 and plug it in real quick. What's 4 times 4?
16.
Square root of 16 times 2 plus 3. Does everybody see how easy that is to check? All right. Very simple. Very, very simple. All right.
Why do you put a star by it? Because different.
Isolate the radical. So to isolate the radical. Go. What?
So you know how 4R, but
You could pull off 4. That's not the same. Right? That was good. All right. So on number 5, what should I do? Add the 3. So we have square root of k plus 2 equals 10. And now how do I undo a square root? Square both sides. So I end up with k plus 2 equals 100. And so k equals what? K equals 98. All right, any questions with that? Because, a good question, these two things are canceling each other out. Everything else stays the way it was.
So you're squaring the radical?
All right. Yes. All right, so for question number 7 now. All right, squaring both sides because it's already isolated. Now notice I'm putting parentheses around it. Okay? So now I end up with 6t plus 12 equals, and now we would say 64 times 6. All right, now the reason why I don't care what 64 times 6 is because I was looking at the problem and saying everything has a common 6, correct?
Yes.
So watch. Instead of multiplying 64 times 6 and subtracting 12 and then dividing by 6, I make a quick observation. I say I can divide it through by 6. When I do that, I end up with t plus 2 equals 64. Does everybody see that? I think that's important. Right? So t is equal to what? T is equal to 62. Because I had to square the 8 and the 6. Walker. You understand that?
Well, I understand. Not really.
Well, which one do you want to square? You're squaring both sides. So I squared both of them. What's 8 squared?
I just don't understand the term that I know that.
Because if you did this, Walker, if I just did 8 square root of 6 and put a 2 there, that means to square the square root of 6. It doesn't mean to square root the 8. All right? All right, so what do I have to do for number 9? What? Hold up.
Why didn't you call
Okay, so here's what I'm saying. It's multiplication. Right? So if I said 3 times 8 divided by 8, what's the answer? It's 3. I don't take 8 divided by 8 and then 3 divided by 8. You agree with me? All right. So now on 9, I have to subtract 5. So I have the square root of 2x plus 15 equals 13. Then what do I have to do? Square both sides. 2x plus 15 is equal to 169.
X equals 77. What smart people you are.
Everybody okay with that? Anybody have any questions with that? All right. So number 11 is nice. All right. So I have to add 3.
Yes.
So I'm going to get 6 square root of 3x over 5 equals 3. And then I have to divide by 6. So we'd say the square root of 3x over 5 is equal to 1/2. And now what? Square both sides. 3x over 5 is equal to 1/4. Can I agree with that?
Yes.
And now to solve a fraction, we multiply by the reciprocal. So x is equal to 5/12. Everybody okay with that? All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 13. All right, these are the ones that are important.
13
All right, here we go. All right. Now, all right, what we're doing here is we have a little bit of a problem. All right. So to isolate the radical, I have to square both sides. Is everybody with me? Now, when I square both sides, I'm left with y squared equals y plus 6. Everybody happy with that? Now, the reason why I say it's a little bit harder because it's a quadratic. To solve a quadratic, you have to set it equal to 0. All right? So your next step would be y squared minus y minus 6 equals 0. Does anybody have any issues with that so far? Any issues? Now to solve a quadratic, we're going to now factor it. All right? So when you factor, you got 2 sets of parentheses. So that became y minus 3 and y plus 2. So your answer was either what? Y equals 3 or y could equal what?
-2.
-2. All right? Now, I want everybody to change colors and cross out -2. That is an extraneous solution. It's called an extraneous solution because look what happens. If I try to plug in -2, -2 equals the square root of -2 plus 6. What's the square root of 4? Not what? -2. So your radicals cannot be set equal to a negative. Your radicals cannot be set equal to a negative. Everybody with me on this?
Yes.
All right. So we say -2 is an extraneous solution. So the only solution is what?
Y equals 3.
Y equals 3. All right, and if you plug that in, does 3 equal the square root of 3 plus 6?
Yes.
Yes. Square root of 9 is 3. Yes, sir.
I forget how to make the y squared partially. I done the.
I have no idea what you mean, Walker, man. Are you just saying you don't know how to factor? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Well, come on, look at it. You make A's on all the tests. You made 98 on the last test. I'm expecting you to kind of look up there and kind of, okay, I don't remember, but how do I make y squared?
Y.
How do I make 6, the factors of 6, 1? All right, here we go. Now, I want everybody to take a look at question 15. All right, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to copy it again and just put it down here. All right, here we go. All right, please take a look. The radical is isolated, do we agree?
Yes.
So now we're going to square both sides. I have all kinds of problems here. W plus 4 equals. Now what is W plus 4 squared? What is W plus 4 squared?
Plus 4.
Everybody says W squared plus 16.
Plus 4.
No. Squaring W plus 4, guys. Everybody should be able to look at that and say that's just W squared plus 8W plus 16. Everybody. All right, the reason why that is, we're going to go in slow motion. Put the W plus 4. W times W is what? Right? The smiley face. 4W and 4W makes what? 8W. What's 4 times 4? Now is everybody in the game, right?
Yes.
Or I know it doesn't matter if you forgot. That's why I'm reminding you. However, I need everybody to look up here now. When I square, there is a pattern for squaring a binomial. So look up. All right, whenever you square a binomial, you square the first term. What does that mean? W squared. The middle term, now pay attention so I can give you a little shortcut. Come on, guys, I want your attention. To find the middle term, you're always going to multiply W times 4, which is what? 4W times 2. What is that? That's where I'm getting this 8W from. There's a pattern to that. And then all you do is you square the last term. That gave you the 16. All right, does anybody have any questions now? All right, that's what I need for you to be able to do. All right, now it's a quadratic, so I've got to set it equal to 0. So here we go. W squared plus 7W plus 12 equals 0. Anybody have any questions or concerns about that? Now we're factoring 2 sets of parentheses. So W plus 4, W plus 3. So W is either what? Negative 4 or W is equal to what? Negative 3. Now because answers are both negative, we got to be careful. All right, listen now. I never once said if the answer is negative, it's automatically extraneous. I did not say that. I said that a radical cannot equal a what? Negative. All right, so now I want to look at my answers up here. All right, if I plug in negative 4, is this right here going to be a negative? No, so that is a good answer. If I plug negative 3 in, do I get a negative? No. So those are both good answers. What?
How do you get 7?
8W minus 1W.
Oh.
Sure you see it? All right.
Where are you putting it in? Like
Into the original equation. Right, everybody's looking up here. Look at the original. If I let W equal negative 4, the square root of 0, does that equal 0? Do you agree with that or not? Sort of. I don't know what that means. Come on now. Is W negative 4, yes or no?
Yeah.
So plug negative 4 in. What is negative 4 plus 4?
Oh.
Right? And then I'm going to plug in what?
-3.
And if that works, you're in good shape. Makes sense now, right? Okay, so let's take a look at 6. What?
Why is it negative?
Oh, come on, guys. Remember, you have to set it equal to 0. So you say W plus 4 equals 0. All right, come on, come on, come on. What number goes in here for W to make that 0? If I plug 4 in, what's 4 plus 4? 8. That's 8 times 7. Definitely not 0. Remember, I want it to be 0, so that means one of these factors has to be 0. What will W be to make it 0? Negative 4. Correct? Or you could have just said what? W plus 4 equals 0. Subtract 4, and you get negative 4. Is everybody with me on that now? Good review. Excellent review of solving quadratics. All right, now we're going to do 17. Let's see how we're doing. You're okay. All right, so what am I going to do on both sides? Square both sides. All right, what happens when you square square root?
It becomes just 5 off.
Yes.
Normal.
5m minus 16. Now I gave you a pattern. Let's see if you learned the pattern. What is m squared? M squared. The middle term would be what?
Negative 4m.
Yes, very good, guys. Negative 4m, and then what?
Plus 4.
All right, that's how you should know that. Anytime you square a binomial, the first term is squared. The middle term is always the product of the two inside times 2. All right, now you have to set it equal to 0. So when I set this equal to 0, I get m squared minus
9m plus 20.
Now how does that factor? How does that factor?
Minus 5 and minus 4.
So m could be
4 or 5.
Now if I do 5 minus 2, is that a negative?
No.
So that's good. If I do 4 minus 2, is that a negative?
No.
So are we good?
Yes.
Yes. Ah. All right, here we go. Uh-oh. So now I have 19. So I have a big problem. I have to move the negative t and the negative 3. So I have the square root of 4t plus 17 equals t plus 3. Everybody good with that? Now I have to do what? Square both sides. What does it equal?
That was a little uncoordinated. I got it though, I understand.
All right, is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
All right, now it's quadratic, so you set the quadratic equal to 0.
T squared plus 2t plus 8. Got it.
I'm moving 4t to the right and 17 to the right. If I move 4t, it becomes negative. If I move 17, it becomes negative. Now, why do I not want to do that? Exactly correct. All right, so how do I factor this now, guys?
T plus 4, t minus 2.
So my answer is
T equals negative 4.
So the question is, can it be negative 4?
No.
Definitely not. Does everybody agree?
Yes.
Can it be 2?
Yes.
All right. We're going to try. All right, here we go. So we're going to isolate first by doing what? Adding 7. So I'd have the square root of 10p plus 61 equals p plus 7. There we go with that. And now what do I do to both sides? Square both sides. What does that equal?
P squared plus 14 plus 9.
Again, you have a quadratic, so you got to set it equal to 0. So what would I have?
P squared plus minus 14 plus 12.
Is that what we said? Minus 12 equals 0. Now what can I do to that? Is it possible for it to be negative 6?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much.
So it would be negative 6 plus 7, and that would still be positive, and you want it to be positive. Oh, okay. How do we check the answer?
Plug the numbers in. So you're going to plug the number in right here. You hear me, Walker? You're plugging it in right here.
Just that side. And the other side. One side.
Do you see that or not, Walker? Do you see why negative 6 works? Because what's negative 6 plus 7?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Good? All right. Now, again, listen. Hey, listen. For some of you guys now, you're getting better with radicals, but we still have work to do. All right. So here is what I need you to understand. All right. I did the odds up here with my other class, so I would prefer that you do the odds. All right, on the first page. All right, don't worry about the word problems right now. I don't care about 23 and 24. But I also want to say, again, those of you guys who need a little bit extra practice, you could do the what? Evens. All right, it's exactly the same. If you are clueless about how to solve a quadratic, you got to work on it more, not less. All right, if you weren't happy with your score, you got to practice more. And I want you to look over the problems that we did on the last test and the reviews. All right, you should be pretty good now at radicals. Tomorrow we have the Pythagorean theorem, which is very easy because I don't remember if you did a squared plus b squared equals c squared last year. Now that I think about it, I think you did. Yeah, you did. You'll see. I think you did. Yes. Yes, you have. All right. But we just didn't know how to do the radicals very well. All right. So, again, guys, I don't mind giving you a little break, but I'm assuming you're going to get some work done. All right. Do the odds. And if you had questions on particular problems, go back and redo the problems. Look them over more. All right. Not less. Any questions? All right, good job for today, guys. Get to work now.